like I said, let's assume we have 70 schools in Ashanti region alone. We have 50, maybe 50 schools here. You have 65 schools in Greater Accra, and you have just about 20 senior high schools in Western region. Okay. When you are selecting schools, if the topic is on performance of senior high schools in Ghana, or let's say within the middle and the coastal belt, okay, in Ghana, then you see, because the population, the number of schools in Ashanti region is higher than the rest, you have to what? Stratify them. You need to stratify them and make sure that the sub groupings, or how much of Ashanti region, how much of Western, how much of Greater Accra, and how much of Western region in the samples are representative of what you have in the population. So you don't want to have a sample where you have so many, all the 20 schools in Western region, and then no school in Greater Accra. If you are selecting maybe a systematic or simple random, you may end up selecting only schools in Ashanti region, which will not be appropriate, right? So it's stratified. What we do is we divide the population into various subgroups and then determine how much people or how many units are within each subgroup. Then after that, we do our computation and then select them, okay? So something like this, we can assign some kind of proportion to each subgroup here, okay? And then based on that proportion, we can sample. So for example, just a minute. So we are saying that the first stage is we have to divide the target population into what? Homogeneous subgroups or stratas, okay? Then the next thing is we draw samples from each stratum, okay? Combine the samples from each stratum into a single sample for the target population, right? Now, let me just put a details to it. Now, when we are selecting from this stratum, we need to understand that because they are in various stratas and we want them to be fully representative, sometimes you want to take into consideration the sizes. So let's say in all we have 70 plus 70 plus 65. It's giving us, that's 140 plus this 205, okay? So you may want to quota them 20 over 205, okay? If my sample size is 100, that will be 20 over 205 times 100, okay? That will be 20.5 here. So approximately we are looking at 10 people, okay? When I divide this should be 20.5. Okay, good. So approximately we are selecting 10 schools from here. When you come to the other group, that will be 70 over 205. Okay, 205 times what? 100. Okay, and when we do that calculation, 100 over this will be 2.5. So 2.5 into 70. 70 divided by 2 is 35. Okay, so we are looking at about 34 or 33 schools from Ashanti region. Okay, so you do same for Accra and do same for this. Then when we add this 33 plus 10 plus that from Accra, from Ashanti region, we will get the total of 100 schools. You understand? So you put all the schools together to get your total 100 schools, right? But the actual selection, now let me explain this. You see, we are selecting a sample of what? A sample of, we have 70 schools here in all, but the sample per our calculation here will be 33 schools, right? So these 33 schools we are selecting from Ashanti region can be selected using what? Simple random sampling, okay? Or systematic random sampling. So the stratified sampling itself doesn't sample. It is putting us into representative what? Stratus. People who are common to each of the stratus. Then we select from the stratus the number of samples we need. Okay. So, like I was saying, stratified sampling itself does not do the sampling, but we combine stratified with another probability sampling technique to get our sample size. You have to take note of that, right? To avoid confusion on how to use stratified sampling. And anytime you use a combined, let's say two-phase, we call it a multi-phase sampling technique. If you combine more than one sampling technique, we refer to that as multi-stage sampling technique. Okay. Yeah, the next thing is we are talking about cluster sampling. Now, cluster sampling, I've mentioned that already. Good. Sometimes you have a group of schools clustered. So, like we just talked about stratified here, there are situations where all the schools in maybe Accra, all the schools in Accra maybe are clustered here. All schools are here, okay, within some towns in Accra. You understand? Because that is where the central city is. So most of the schools are clustered in that area. There are just a few schools in the remaining communities in Accra. So you can see this is a cluster. Or let's say we have another cluster to here. There are some schools here, okay? But in the remaining portions of Accra, we don't have a lot of schools. So you see that this is one cluster. This is another cluster. So if we are going to sample, we need the samples to represent the clusters. We want to see most of the people in this cluster in the sample. And we also want to see those in this cluster. Don't go and select all of these people, these people who are far, far away and are just dispersed, and leave out where majority of the schools are. Okay, so in cluster sampling, we select in what? Natural groupings, or what we call as clusters. So we say it's a sampling technique used when there are natural groupings. Okay, and the natural groupings are so evident in the population. Good. Now, the next thing we need to know is we usually use them in marketing research. But in some cases, like the case of the KIA, okay, or the headquarters, they live in clusters. So you can only find them in certain, even in the central market, you can only find them in some locations. They all sleep in some locations within the central markets. Okay, so you can only find them in clusters in those areas, right? So if you are going to conduct, a sampling, then you may have to consider where they group themselves, and that is where you can find them to have a discussion with them. Okay, so you can only sample using cluster sample. You don't just use simple random. You can't use simple. You can't use systematic. You can't use stratified in that case too. Okay, good, because they are clustered. They are not uniformly dispersed in the population. They are only in clusters. So you have to pick them in the natural clusters where they are staying to conduct your study. Yeah. Now, if there's any question, you can ask. If there are any questions, you can ask.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, please, can you go over this classroom again?
Yeah, so the clustering, like I said, we always have natural groupings. Like when you go to something like Kayaye, or let's say you want to conduct a study on how do they call this cars with the three tires? Those small yellow cars.
Aboboya.
The Aboboya cars. Okay, good. Now, when you are considering Aboboya cars, you find most Aboboya, when you come to Kaswa, let's say you've come to Kaswa, you find Aboboya cars in Kaswa itself. You find a lot of them in Kaswa. Then in Kaswa, you see, they are all clustered here. Apart from this point, you may not find them anywhere else in Kaswa till you get to new markets. Then you see they are clustered there again. Okay. But if you meet any Aboboyaka, then it's on the move. You understand? It's in a move, or it's just parked somewhere just around. But if you want where those Aboboya drivers are, they are always in clusters. They find themselves at a certain place. Now, you see the difference between clusters and stratas is, one, in stratas, there should be differences in the stratum. Like strata A, Ashanti region should be different from strata B. Okay, but you see, this time they are all Aboboyakas, but just that they group themselves in different locations. Okay, so in the same way, when it comes to the Kayaye, they are all Kayaye, but they group themselves in different places. Okay, even in Central Accra, you can only find them at some place. Sometimes you find a lot of them around those woody structures around the Kole Lagoon there. Do you get it? That is where they stay. You will not find most of them in the Central Accra itself. Okay, during the day you find them there. But when you want to really conduct a research, then you need to know where they stay. So when you are doing the sampling, you have to use a cluster sampling. You cannot use stratify, you cannot use simple random. But you can, you see, after you have obtained your cluster, then you can use simple random to select the units within the cluster. Okay, but even that one, like I'm saying, there are some research you can't use simple random because you can't just select members and say, I've selected you, so I want you to conduct the research. The person may not be interested in what partaking in the research. You understand? So in that case, you may have to replace the person in your random sampling, or better still, use a convenient sampling. When you get there, you realize that I need 5 people. But when I got there, I realized there are 5 people or 6 people who are free. Okay, you prefer to talk to those people than for you to go asking for a list of people who stay there. And in some cases, you not even have the list of people who stay there. In the case of Kayaye, you don't have the list of population in the first place for you to even be calculating any probability sampling method. Do you get it? So depending on what research you are going to do, you have to select the most appropriate technique. Okay, we also have non-probability methods. So now, more non-probability methods generally are used when the population frame or the sampling frame is not available. So if we don't know the population, how many Kayayes are in Greater Accra, there is no way you can have your sampling frame because each and every day people are coming to join them. So you can't have the full list of Kayaye in Accra. So it means that you cannot use a probability sampling method because probability sampling method, you need a total to do your calculation. So if you don't have it, then you have to fall on non-probability methods. And there are different techniques. We have convenience. Convenience is what I just described. It's purposive. You get there, you realize that these 5 people are available, or you've met these 5 people who are available for such a study. You talk to them. Let's say you are conducting a research on a court case. When you get like the TVs you usually do, if they want to find out your view after maybe a court case or after a program, they come to the first person He talks to you, the next person he talks to you, the next person, then he gets his 10 members, 10 units. Do you get it? It's convenience, it's purposeful. As and when you meet me, I interview you. Do you get it? Then we also have what we call as judgmental sampling. Okay. So judgmental sampling, this time we need an information, but we prefer to speak to only car owners or only drivers. Do you get it? We will speak to only drivers. So when we believe that certain units have a particular are fit to respond to our question, then we speak to them. So that is a judgmental sampling. Do you get it? In that case, somebody will say you are being biased because you are not interviewing everybody. You're only interviewing those who know the issue. But you want to come out with the true findings. So in that case, you need to speak to only people you believe have real knowledge of what is going on. Okay, good. Then we also have quota sampling. Quota sampling is like the stratified sampling. It also assigns quotas. So if I'm going to a location where I feel there are more of these respondents within the population, so let's say I'm going to conduct a study on market women. Then I have Agbogloshi market. I have Kasua old market. I have Kasua new market here. Okay. Then I have maybe Medina markets. Okay. Now, clearly, let's say we have Mala market 2 on the way. Clearly, our Agbogloshi and Medina markets are bigger markets than Kasua new markets. And yes, even Kasua old market will be bigger than the Malam market. I don't think I've assessed that carefully. Okay. But in terms of sizes and in terms of market women, you have most market women. So if you have about, just an assumption, about 90 market women here, okay, we expect to have close to 90 also at the Medina market, whereas we'll be having somewhere around 60 here. We'll be having close to, let's say, 65 here. And then you have, it's just an assumption of numbers, okay, just to indicate the relative sizes. So when it happens like that, you see, once again, the markets have been stratified naturally. Where Agbogloshi market is different from Medina market. Where this market is naturally being stratified. Do you get it? But we have to consider how many people we are going to select in Agbogloshi market, how many people will select in Medina market, how many we are going to select in what? In Medina market. So we'll say that, okay, because these people are more, if I'm selecting maybe 25 here, and I select 25 here, then I'm going to select out of the 100, this will be 50. So I'll select maybe, let's say 15 here. Let's say I have 20 here. Okay. And I'll assign these people to 15. It will be 15, 15, 20, 25, 25. Then that will give me a total of 100. You see, when you do that, you have assigned some quota to each of the markets. You understand? Then you go ahead and then sample within the markets using any other sampling method to get. So for market movement, they are busy. So you may want to use a convenient sampling if you want to talk to them. Oh, Mpacho, then market has a. And what role do you play? Can you tell me about this? You can't go asking them, okay, give me the list of all market women. Let me sample. Then when you sample, the person is selling palm oil and you still want the person to stop the palm oil and respond to your questionnaire. They will not be happy. They will not even give you the right response. I hope you got that explanation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. We have what we call as the snowball sampling technique. Okay, so snowball sampling technique, like you're conducting a study on let me use suicide issues. Okay, so somebody commits suicide, you want to investigate that, right? When you go to this family, it is very easy for that family to tell you this other family, somebody also died out of this. So they will keep recommending what the next group is. Good. Or let's say you are conducting a study of some burgers in Ghana. When you meet the first burger, the first person who traveled, he will give you the information of his friend who is in Ghana who also traveled to the same country. When you get there, he or she will also give you information of another friend who also traveled to the same country. So it becomes a snowball sampling. You as a researcher cannot tell all those who have traveled to that country. But once you meet the first individual, the next individual, that person will connect you to the next person, and the next person will connect you to the next person till you get to your full sample size. So which means in this case too, the population frame or the sampling frame is not available. So for all non-probability sampling techniques, your sampling frame is not available. Now we should be running off. Then good. Let me skip this for now. I think I've overly explained them. Good. Now we are saying that, just like I said from the beginning, if you are considering any design, the first important thing is your research objectives. Will tell you what design you are going to use. That you need to consider the resources available to you, the degree of accuracy, your time frame. If you don't have enough time, you can't conduct a longitudinal study. You have to conduct a population that you cannot use a quality sample technique. Okay, and the risk of the in mass, you are expected to employ statistical tools. Okay, when I say statistical tools, we are talking about tools like ANOVA, like the t-test, like exploratory factor analysis, time series analysis, regression analysis, whether linear, quadratic, logistic, all those analytical tools, which means that you cannot conduct a qualitative study. You can't use a qualitative design, okay, for your work. As far as we are concerned in the maths department, you need to at least it's either quantitative or a mixed design, because you should have some quantitative design or quantitative aspect where you can use what the statistical tools, okay, which you have been taught in class to analyze. If you don't have that, your research will not fly in the maths department. So you take note of that, okay? So you can't go and conduct a test and just come and give us graphs in terms of bar chart and no. You need to go further, give us some models, give us some equations. We want to see some equations and some values with interpretations of R squared, AICCs and all that. Okay, if you don't do that, your work will not fly in the maths department. So take note of that. For us, we stick with what quantitative designs and mixed designs in the maths department. Okay, so once again, I bring the flow chart, okay, for just to remind you. The next thing is data collection. I'm going to wrap up. Now, when we talk about data collection, we mean how do you collect the data? And it requires what? Planning, okay? You don't just get up and start taking data. You need to plan, okay? Good. Now, in collecting data, there are various, that's one. Then when we talk about a survey, let me quickly. Yes, we all know what questionnaires look like. We have the questionnaire, have a, let me one, see in case so you force questionnaire before. Maybe in one we have age, and then you are given into 8 asked to take, Okay, then you have 19 to maybe 20 something, 20 designed. Okay? The interval designed based on knowledge. 23, maybe 25 and above what. So we have above, or let's say 25. Okay, greater than 25. Let me put it that way. Okay. Okay, so then in the questionnaire, you can have gender. Okay, so you can be giving gender. You have male, you have female. Okay, and when you are designing, you need to also consider the factor list of your behavior. You want to find out tests which are for their mission. So you can say that maybe for the next set of questions, which are the main body, questions that answer objectives, you can start in, okay, for the lack of space, rate the following, which count to migrating, okay. Then you bring the maybe A, which the third factor. So on a scale of 1, so we can, let's have 1, 2, 3, 4. You nicely. Okay. Second reason will be what? How do we early marriage? Use which they why they child meeting. We are going to do as response item. Okay, so question will tick this ask for you. Now the beautiful thing about questions, because it's set off. If you are dropping to or a company, just leave about 10 at school. I'll come back in for me. Or hard copy, you can give it to them through online means. That is if you can just somebody a link, response questionnaire, fix some file, then and the go for an answer. You get it. So it's very simple use in terms. It's very quick to administer. Okay, it's relatively less. It don't have to be work everybody. Good as compared to interviews. Interviews you have to travel, talk to everybody one by one, and know what the issue is. But this one, when you leave it, it's distributed for you to get your responses. But unfortunately, if somebody gives you wrong answers, you will not know. Okay, these are some of the disadvantages. If somebody is not happy about the questions, he may not respond carefully and you may not know, right? But if it's an interview, then you'll be able to tell whether this person is telling you the truth or not. You get it? Good. So this is for questionnaire. Now let's move interviews. Online subs are all SDS. They are from for interview questions, then you interview them. So it can be face to face. You can meet one on one, or you can on okay. It has course associated because you have to be traveling. Let's say you are going to West this kind of work, okay, and it will require a lot of resources, okay, in terms of that. Interviews to but you see that somebody for more than 5 minutes. People get you asking like that. You recording for it's an interview. Okay, sometimes people don't get the right kind of okay. Sometimes it's because you may meet prepared for you, okay, or the things in the bad means that access to what you actually expect. Okay, good. Now these are awareness and computer assist questionnaires. All those ones are part of questionnaires and interviews. Okay, this is more on interviews. Of interview, formal interviews, where you have your full set of questions. Okay, better still, let me say structured and unstructured. In structured, you have your full set of questions. Only pretend to be a car you and then go a few weeks and see how they. Okay, that is an observation. You want to see how then you take a slide, but you have now come enter. Like somebody says, I want to check how do that you are conducting